Hey there. Life is pretty crazy. Today let's talk about ego clinging and judgment. Okay? A lot of amazing things have been happening recently. A lot of phenomenal perfections. It's raining right now. I'm up at Rainbow Park. And I was thinking about going down under a tree and continuing this video at some point, sometime. I also decided to start it right here in my hand while I was drinking some water, or right after I drank some water. I thought about starting while I drank the water, but I decided to wait. Not because it's a plastic bottle or anything. I had thought that like maybe I was waiting because it was plastic. I didn't want to drink plastic on here. It's a plastic bottle right now. My glass bottles are kind of messed up, and I didn't want to bring them to EO in case they got broken all over the place, and so this is what I got going on right now. Not a big deal. That's another judgment that could be released. So okay, ego clinging and judgment. This is something that has very recently come up with a dear sister, beautiful, amazing reflection, and had to move through all kinds of things, and I constantly like to look into the mirrors around me and put them in the proper placement. I'm like, hey man, you're right here where I am, and it continues that no matter how amazingly expansive the mirror is, that I happen to be in a different place than they are, which is great. I mean, that's awesome. I just have a lot of things to teach and to share. I've been 100% dedicated to a path with only one point of focus for so long, with a beautiful intention that I've learned exponentially in a really amazing way. I've been dedicated to medicine ceremony that has rapidly accelerated me, and I have been given the codings, the transmissions, the teachings, the lungs of many different empowerments that have allowed me to rapidly accelerate. And I obviously have an immense amount of past lives in a perfect manner that were allowed to create me in a place of symmetry when it came to the way in which I mixed it in shape and form within the non-separate unity of all beings being one being. So everything coming around me and kind of like shaping me equally from all sides in a really amazing, phenomenal manner. And I'm not saying this isn't the truth for you, but this is something I've realized for myself, as myself, which is unique to myself, but doesn't have to continue to be unique to myself. I believe we can all awaken to the wisdom of our Buddha being, of our unlimited enlightened state. Enlightenment and unlimited put together is cool. So, sometimes you get ahead, one word ahead, and they mix together. It's a channel. So we're just doing it right here in the moment, authentically, always. It's a really amazing thing. Okay, and so what do we have going on today? Ego clinging. What is ego? What is ego clinging? Well, when I speak about ego, I don't really speak about the character that we could identify you as, because, you know, anybody could even say that Siddhartha, Buddha, Gautama Buddha was an ego. You could say that, because that's the way in which we distinguish that particular being in a way, and so it's the label in which we have. But of course, this being wasn't really Buddha in that way, or Gautama Buddha in that way. This being was a limitless presence in a really amazing way. You know, we're all limitless presence in a really amazing way. We can all release our ego identities. Ryan, Sarah, Ashley, Grover, Bondowit, whatever it is we wish to say our name to be. Buddha, Siddhartha, Satya Yoga, or whatever. Satya Yoga, isn't that like a thing that we could be in Krishna? I don't know. I don't know a lot about Hinduism, but that's okay. The Kali Yuga, the Satya Yuga. Okay, yeah, something like that. Okay, anyways. Well, I'm going to use this thing as like a backrest. It's good for my back not to have my body arched forward all the time, you know, holding something and then, you know, hurting my shoulders in some manner, shape, or form. I went on a 7-mile run the other day. That was bomb. Haven't been on a run in a while. Got to keep doing more of those, you know, get back into shape, back into that place of presence, that wonderful, healthy, sustainable wealth that is your health, you know. It's a phenomenal balance. The longer I can go running, the longer I can go in any physical activity means the longer in which I'm able to channel and to bring amazing energy to the benefit of all beings. That's phenomenal, isn't it? Yeah, and it just comes naturally. You know, sometimes you don't feel like it, and one day, all of a sudden, you just feel like going. Boom. And that's the time for you to do it. So, you know, whenever you get that natural, genuine feeling, and you're not forcing yourself in some kind of crazy manner due to some judgment you have on your reality, it'll probably be much easier for you to go forward in that manner in a way that's a path of least resistance, which is the heart path. You know, the heart always moves through the paths of least resistance. Least resistance, like electricity, energy. All of these things are moving that way. You may not seem that, but you know everything around the paths of resistance are smooth channels, and the resistant path has no choice. That's really the only path or space for that energy to move, and so for that path, that's literally the path of least resistance for that path. No matter how much resistance it looks like, that's it has no other path to travel, so that's the path of its least resistance for its particular unique expression at that time. And so that's something to really look forward to in our lives. We can see that these points that we had resistance or great agitation, pain, suffering in some kind of a exponential manner, this was really the path of least resistance for us. And that's like, whoa, how could that be? Well, you know, not due to anybody else, that's for sure. It was the path of least resistance due to your own particular needings for teachings in this lifetime, to your own dharma, your own karma, what it was that you were needing to experience in order to break through your own judgments, your own ideas, your own agreements, your own egos clinging to different things, and also so that you can continue to do your work in the world, so that you can remain relevant to everybody as you meet within your path. There's nothing that happens that's not relevant. So right now you're gaining information through whatever it is you're doing to where you can talk to the next person in your life, and then the next person after that. And sometimes 20 years from now, it's an experience that's gained you the ability to be relevant to people then, and to all kinds of manners of being. Maybe you're only going to be relevant to the trees. Who knows? You know, it's possible. That's not a big deal. Maybe you don't have anybody you can talk to. Nothing that really syncs up and aligns and harmonizes with a meeting with their energy. You constantly find energies passing you by. You're like, oh man, I don't understand. Why won't anybody talk to me? Well, you don't have anything relevant. You know, it's not relevant to you. It's not relevant to them. It's not just like you're like a ghost in some way. It's like, no, you just don't have any relevance with them, and they don't have any relevance with you. They're not going to share anything that helps you, and you're not going to share anything that helps them. And I'm sorry, all we ever do is help one another. We're always for it. We're never against, and it's a product of non-duality. And so, you know, just go ahead and rest in whatever it is. And I wouldn't just like surrender to that. Like, if you start to notice these things, you're like, whoa, man, nobody's talking. It doesn't mean that you're not relevant. You know, it could just be for that moment in time. It doesn't mean it's like a forever thing. You're not sentenced to that. You know, you could just, you know, wait until you have something to express. And when you have something to express and you feel like expressing to whoever's around, there you go. You're relevant, you know, you're ready for their journey. And you're relevant in the way that you're still being seen, you're still affecting all the frequencies. Even if you don't have anything to say or listen to, you know, that's all right, not a big deal. Surely you'll still hear things, though, so you can take notice in that. Surely you'll still be thinking things, and therefore you'll be talking about things. And that's really cool. You know, you'll be feeling things. This is all, you know, things that are teaching you, creating you, growing you, moving you in a certain manner, shape, or form. For the times in which there's nobody that you wish to talk to and nobody that wishes to talk to you, that's a good time to come to inner peace. That's a good time to come to inner understanding. And that's a really beautiful, phenomenal thing. I didn't even realize that this was the teaching that was going to come through today. I was trying to direct it to ego, clinging, and judgment, which in some way it'll still continue to come back to there because that's where it was that I wished to start it at. But it's just interesting that we would come to this place of relevance on the journey and, you know, how everything always is and perfect in this kind of a way, which does have a lot to do with our judgment, actually, which is really cool because a lot of times we judge things as greater or lesser, and we look at them and we're like, that's not part of the path. That's not okay. We got to change that. We got to take that away. And that's a complete realm of judgment. You know, you don't know what the fuck is relevant for me. You don't know what I need to see. You don't know where I need to go. Just like, hey, man, I don't know what you need to see or where you need to go. When you come to me, I'm a very clear mirror, and so I can see what's going on with you, and I'm going to point it out because I'm authentic and I don't hold anything back. I'm not just going to create an idea or a story in my head and hold it back inside of me and be like, you know what, I see this thing in this person, but for the meaning of harmony and hanging out with them longer, I'm going to not cause waves right now. We're just going to enable them to continue on their journey in this manner. Because, hey, man, they may be upset with me. They may even want to fight me. All these different things, all these different fear mentalities that would get me from stopping to, you know, expressing myself in genuinity, stopping the flow of the perfect channel flowing through me in the moment always. And that'd be crazy, wouldn't it? Maybe I'm attached to them sexually, or maybe I'm attached to them relationship-wise, or friendship-wise, or maybe they're going to give me money in the future, or whatever it is. But, you know, maybe I have to disturb the living shit out of them no matter what, you know, and Maybe it's not because I wish to, because I have a good intention. Trust me, I do love to be liked, and people usually do. I want friends. That's nice. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really care too much about friends, but it is cool to have friends. I mean, it feels nice, I suppose, but I feel pretty self-sustained, actually, to tell you the truth. Um, though, when I do get around people, I do feel that, like, whoa, and I feel that, like, bit of attachment come up, like, man, this is cool, I'd like some more of this, and I dig that. Recently, I've been doing that a little bit more. I even slept with somebody recently who was beautiful, really amazing, phenomenal. Goodness, was that gorgeous. Oh, my God. But, whatever, that's okay. A triggering had to happen, a teaching had to come through, and I couldn't covet the attachment to the relationship. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I could do it. It's possible for me to do that, I guess. I mean, it seems as if it's actually impossible for me to do that, but I mean, I could attempt to do that, or in the past I've been able to do that, but now I'm so dedicated to truth and honesty and trusting the wisdom of the moment that I don't even have really much of a choice, as it turns out. I've chose already to live and surrender to the perfection of everything for the benefit of everything, so everything I do happens to be that constantly, always, in every way that I ever do anything, whether I notice it to be or not in the moment. And even when I don't notice it to be, it's exactly what I need to be doing. And so this is actually a way in which I've been able to see what we're all doing in ways that most of us are asleep to. We're not really awake about. We don't really understand that that's what we're doing, so we're constantly, like, hitting these places of self-judgment. But even those places of self-judgment are like the contrast of polarity that are causing us movement. And that's a really amazing thing, because it's like bouncing us here, bouncing us here, bouncing us here. We're all always actually staying on a center line, because we're never in both places at the exact same time. Sometimes actually we can experience all the different places at one time, but that's in a way that's like helping us see what's going on right here in the very middle part. Like, see what happens when you jump over to this extreme and then this extreme, and then you can hold this center point instead. But either way, we're always on the direct present point of our channels, more what I'm trying to say. It's like, yeah, we're here, we're here, we're here. But we could hold this line, and that line still may go like, and really it is, I mean, because we're always in our enlightened state, we're always in our awakened state, we're always our limitless presence. It's the most amazing blessing that's ever been occurring. And it's something that we can't fall out of, because only one thing happens to be happening. So it's not like we have choice between two things. It's like, no, one thing's occurring. Even when it looks like that, or even when it looks like that, it's still one thing, perfection, constantly happening, the truth embodied, the wisdom that needs to be happening for the benefit of all beings, ourselves and every being that we happen to come in contact with it, inside of whichever state we happen to be occurring. So maybe I'm emotionally sad, emotionally mad, emotionally happy, whatever that happens to be, and that's what I'm expressing, whatever moment I happen to be in, expressing my real nature, my Dzogchen, and my great perfection, Dzogchen teaching, and whatever that is exactly what's necessary for whatever being I happen to come in contact with, whether it be the trees, the grass, the rocks, a person, a place, a thing, whatever it happens to be. It's exactly what I'm needing to be in that moment that I happen to be in. Not just for them, but also for myself personally, because it's teaching me. It's bringing me to a certain place. So it's like when I feel nervous, when I feel upset, it causes me movement typically. I'm like, I have to go for a walk. I have to go to this place and that place. And then I have an enchance meeting, or I have something that occurs to me. Maybe I just subtly pick up a frequency that I don't even, become consciously aware of, that I'm not even aware has happened or occurred. It's like I just walk over here, and then I move over there. It's like it seems pointless, but, for the benefit of everything, that was very, very, very necessary. Freed up space for a lot of the other things to have movements in the channels in which I was clogging by being in those certain places I was being in before. And would I have noticed that before that? Absolutely not. But when you come into higher realms of awareness of how all things are moving as waves of energy with one another, not against one another, and that are not separate from one another, you'll see that there's a very limited amount of space for movement when it comes to the movement of everything, and everything's movement begets each other's movement. So your movement allows my movement to move in the way in which it is. So everything moving right now is actually occurring, causing the expression in which is coming through me. So because of all of you moving exactly as you are, it means that I am able to express in the way that I am exactly right now. And also the way that I am expressing begets the way in which you're able to express, and so on and so forth, for the benefit of all beings, and to relation and relevance to the benefit of all beings, towards, relevance to all beings. It's perfect. So it is a really amazing, phenomenal thing. And continuing on the channel and wondering if I got lost from that last one, but, you know, just continuing. When you feel that you got lost or anything like that, all you have to do is continue to open it up, move on from whatever point you're on and whatever now moment you're in, and then it just goes right through. Now, if you get yourself stopped up in thinking, talking about the past, clinging to the past, ego clinging to one of the things, you know, like, oh, where was I before? Oh, don't worry about that. Here you are in the now. Let's move forward. Okay. So we were here started on ego clinging and judgment. And it's cool that we've come through a bit of these in a really strange, roundabout nature, in a manner that I didn't really understand. And it's a very direct nature, so I may say roundabout, but it was very direct and really cool. I just didn't see how it was going to portray itself. I simply started the channel, and now I observe the channel. And so as it comes through, I allow it, I trust it, I surrender to it. I get to watch, as you get to watch, what is going to happen, what is going to be said, what stories are going to be brought up in relation to these things in which I wish to bring to you, and how they're going to come through. And I have a chance and an opportunity to allow them to come in the way in which they wish to come in by the moment, or I have an opportunity to judge them and say, no, I'm going to change it to this, what I think will be preferred to be received by some other ego identity, and that's not something that I wish to be doing, and it's something that I have done, something that I am capable of doing, but every day I fall deeper and deeper into the trust of the moment and knowing that this is literally to the T exactly what needs to be occurring, and that frees me into an amazing place of expression. It is true freedom. It's like, oh wow, I can just be anything, however I wish to be. This is amazing, you know, a really phenomenal thing. And yeah, to continue on. So I've been recently in these different meetings with people, and I've been able to see all these different things, and this really potent teaching came through this relationship that really quickly began and ended in a really gorgeous manner, too, I gotta say. Wow. Holy moly. So beautiful. Man, I want some more of those. Anyways, but they are tough, you know what I mean? But I become more sturdy with every one of these, seeing that, yes, I'm not the doer, and that these things are coming through, and I'm not doing it. And maybe one day you'll come to these same places, too, and that's why I say them to you. You know, maybe you'll be like, oh, wow, that's right. I'm not the doer, but I wouldn't just, you know, agree with this. I've been able to see where people attach to conceptual knowledge, intellectual knowledge, but it has to really come from a place of experience and knowing to actually be knowledge. So people read the teachings, they take on the teachings, they read the scriptures, they know the scriptures by heart, but they don't actually implement them into their life, and so they're not real. You know, it's I saw a post today that said it's all in vain if you do that. You know, if you read it, you know it, and you don't actually implement it, apply it, and that's really cool. That's really beautiful. But how do we apply it? You know, how do we bring these into life? How do we bring these into the world? How do we actually understand what it is that's occurring through these things? Like, how do we bring ourselves into true realization and true knowing? Well, before you ever had a realization, you think that you've realized things. You think that you've had epiphanies. You think that you've known something. You're like, man, I know all this stuff. Let me tell you about 2 plus 2, baby. It's like, well, all right, that's cool. Maybe, you know, you do understand 2 plus 2. That's possible. But let me tell you something about knowing. Knowing isn't an intellectual thing. You don't even have to have information to be welcomed into a place of knowing. You could know nothing at all and then be somehow welcomed into a place of knowing and be far more advanced than anybody who's ever read every single book in the world. Be like, what? That guy knows all this knowledge. He doesn't know anything. If he's read a bunch of things and he's conceptualizing, his intellect holds information within him, it doesn't mean he knows something. He has to have a direct experience with what is true wisdom, what is true knowledge, what is true knowledge, experiential understanding. So when a realization happens for a Buddha or for any other being, it is as if you've stepped through a layer of consciousness to where all of a sudden you're changed forever. You remember something you didn't realize you forgot. You now know and are welcomed into a place of knowing of information that can never be shaken from you. It is now who you are. It is who you've always been. It is not a new thing. It is an old thing. It is something that has always been the case and something you have always known. There's nothing that has ever been learned in this lifetime. It's like, oh, now you can relate it to the concepts, the ideas, the intellectual understandings, the ways in which you're able to transfer information. You can relate it to those things in order to transfer information to other beings. And so you have this amazing ability through knowledge, through the way that we've intellectually conceived so many things, to begin to explain the points of direct experience to other beings, articulating them in ways that are necessary and of benefit. And I'm very happy that I had all the many books and understandings and teachings that I had before I had the realizations that I had, because I was able to bring it into context. I knew about physics. I knew about these other things. I knew about many words in which to identify and to label my experience with, but I still had to release a lot of dogmatic viewpoints, which were stories that carried forward. I had to release many things to where it could be a clear transfer of information. And so I channel from my own direct experience in really amazing ways. Do I know which is going to come through? No. The whole of my experience has been the guru or the teacher, so I'm now giving you the teachings from my teacher, the guru, the path itself. Dzogchen, the real nature, the great perfection. It's amazing to be a Dzogchen practitioner and not even realize it until you read about Dzogchen and be like, whoa, that's me, yo. Can't believe it. Anyways, pretty cool stuff. So yeah. Judgments and ego clinging. A lot of people don't really even understand that they've begun to ego cling. They've, finally hit a point in themselves where somebody's transferred an information over to them and they've been like, oh, wow, that rings true to me, of course. Yes. Now, which part of you is it ringing true to? Is it ringing true to the true you or to the judgmental you? Is it really ringing true to your heart or to your mind? And let me clarify as well. Buddhists believe mind to be the heart and the body to be the brain. So I could say to your body or to your mind, but here in the West, we actually have them opposite in our understanding. So I give this teaching for those with the Western understanding of body being heart, but it's really heart-mind. The mind is here. Everything's created from the heart. But still, when I speak of the mind, I speak of the brain. I don't speak of the heart, because the heart is a pure, amazing, phenomenal thing that knows all things, and from that place, we can understand everything. When we surrender to our true teacher, our heart, we'll know all the wisdom when we go deep within that place, deep within that space. The key to that space being unconditional love for all beings everywhere without one exception. The closest words that I can relate it to, the closest phrase I can relate it to, as comes to the English language in which I was born with, my native tongue. American English. I do understand British English to be slightly differently understood, but I do believe that we are similar enough to where it understands and relates what I've said to both of the dialects of this amazing, phenomenal language that I was born with, that I love greatly and always and forever. And many people have a lot of judgment about. They're like, screw English. English is disgusting and gross. I guess because we don't really root ourselves to any one culture or heritage anymore, and so we're all like, ooh, Italian's beautiful, ooh, this indigenous language is beautiful, oh, this and this and this. I wonder how it is that English actually came to be. Some people have this wonderful story that's a fear-based mentality, from what I've been able to perceive, of men literally getting together and creating the language in order to put spells on us and stop us from being able to expand into the limitless state of our consciousness. Now, this is a really funny thing because it hasn't seemed to stop me or inhibit me in any kind of way, shape, or form. Of course, I don't power it or believe in it in any way, shape, or form at all anyway, so it's a really funny thing. People think that if I say I understand, then I'm under something and it's awful. I'm like, I'm under something, there's all this weight on top of me, I don't really understand. And then they say, you must overstand. Whoa, okay, so we went from understanding to overstanding. Let me overcome. Let me overwhelm. Let me over this. Like, alright, well, that's cool. I do like to overcome things. I do. It's like overcoming an obstacle. I like to jump over hurdles. I think that's really cool. I guess I could go under a hurdle, and that would still pass me through the hurdle, actually. If I'm underwhelmed, I guess it's, I'm not very well whelmed. Yeah, it's cool. I'm kind of underwhelmed. It's not that big a deal, actually. Not very shocking, not very awe-stricken. But it's funny that we would wish to change these commonalities in our English language, because it is the way in which we're able to very precisely communicate with one another. So now we want to change the way in which we can precisely communicate, the way that we've learned to be able to do, and we've clearly defined for a long time. Due to what? Due to some story somebody told us that somebody has done something against us, and feeding into the ego identity that something could possibly be against us, many of us are like, oh, I knew it! I knew they were against us! I knew it, man! I fucking knew it! Now I'm going to change my whole life in regards to what this person has just told me. Of course they were against me in this way. I mean, I'm already psycho-paranoid to think that everything's against me in every way, shape, and form. I mean, that's my ego identity, so when you tell me that, I'm going to immediately feed into that and think, man, I'm doing the right stuff. People do this with diet as well. Yeah, that's right. They do it with diet as well. And they feel so amazing, and they've had their diet for so long that they're sure that there's no way that's possibly a limitation in their life. And they're like, no, man, that's not my ego, bro. Oh, really? So you're saying to me that right now you could do something outside of that and still feel comfortable and unshaken? What if I were to say, put you in a desert situation where you and your whole family were going to die unless you ate steak? You would just die? Okay. Well, that doesn't seem like a limitation at all in the process of freedom of your life. It's kind of cool being an omnivore. Like, we get the option to eat all kinds of things. It's kind of freeing, you know. We're not limited to have to stay in a grassy field and eating grass, 24 hours a day. Which I'm not saying anything eats for 24 hours a day. I do understand that things must sleep and play and lay down and all the other amazing, cool things. But it's interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, we don't have to hunt all the time. We can cook. We can keep farm. We can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, we're amazingly able to, with great versatility, do whatever it is that we want to do, which is kind of nice and freeing. Thinking about the Tibetan Buddhists up in the Himalayan mountains that don't have the opportunity to grow food like everybody else does, and so they must eat yak. But these guys are obviously very not compassionate, and they should be eating nothing but a raw vegan diet. I mean, and then there's the people that eat raw meat, those sons of bitches, those terrible bastards. But they typically do have a crazy judgment against the vegans, don't they? Those guys are doing it wrong. It seems like any diet that anybody decides to take in preference creates the other diets to be not good. Even when they say, I don't judge you for your diet, is that really you not judging them for their diet, or is it you not wishing to be judged for your diet, so you're saying you don't judge them? But is there not a subtle frequency within you saying, those sons of bitches, if only they were more like me, they would be more happy? Or do you really just see it like, yeah, man, everybody to each their own, and that's cool. I dig that. I'm kind of a funny guy, Like, yeah, to each their own, but what is the cause of this? I like to, really look into things. Like, are you doing that really for the pure, genuine, that's what your preference is due to your natural perfection and flow? I mean, it's definitely your natural perfection and flow. I'm not trying to break you away from that trust, because that is true. But why? Why am I seeing it? Why am I triggered to respond about it? Why am I trying to look at it? What is it that is actually occurring here? And is this really something that's limitless or something that's limiting? And it's cool to be able to distinguish between the two. So let's figure it out. Yeah, I see a crazy amount, people pushing their diet on other people. Oh, and then when you tell them that they're pushing their diet on other people, they're like, no, I'm not pushing my diet on other people, but I'm sharing this amazing wisdom. I'm like, okay. I come from a Buddhist practice, a practice of one taste that doesn't see anything as different. So, I mean, even if you're this, or even if you're that, or even if you're that, it's not different than the other. But being that I can see that, it brings me to a different place of neutrality, a different place of middle way, to where it's like, well, if that's the case, why cling to that and that and that and that and that? Why would I go to that? Because I think it was better for me. Why? Well, because I would be afraid that if I did the other thing, that it wasn't good for me. So I've been vegan, and that was cool. That was a nice little voyage, And then, man, imagine what you feel like when you're vegan for a long time and you eat meat. I know what it feels like. Scary. It's like, oh no, I've ruined everything. What's going on? Then when you eat organic all the time, oh man, non-organic doesn't sound very good. But then you reach a point to where you're poor and you can't afford organic food. If you go to the organic store, you're going to starve to death. So what are you going to do? Are you going to eat GMO food? Or you're not going to eat any food? If you eat the organic food, you're definitely still going to starve. So what are you going to do? Or are you going to enslave yourself to a reality that makes money to perpetuate all suffering, if that's what you're agreeing with, that's what you believe? I mean, if you're constantly in surrender and you don't really have a choice in what you're doing because you've given up your choice so that you can be benefit to everything, it kind of puts you in an interesting quandary, I have to tell you. You kind of really have to look at things a lot more deeply. You don't really have the luxury of being complacent and putting things aside and suppressing them and putting them off till later. You kind of have to deal with everything in the now moment as it comes up, or you're kind of screwed. that's kind of the place that I put myself in. It's a path that seems very difficult, but I gotta tell you, it bears a lot of fruit. It's kind of like the greatest wealth in the world. And so I love sharing that wealth, I gotta say. But it's really interesting to see these different ego clingings. And why is it that we originally even became vegan? I mean, there was a time when people never were. You know, nobody would even have thought about it. It was like, what do you mean, be vegan? Like, what are you even saying to me right now? You know, God, what was it? Was it Black Elk? Was it Standing? I don't know. There's a certain Native American that I remember speaking with animals in his past lives. And so he wouldn't want to go out on the hunt, but he still ate animals. Isn't that interesting? He wasn't a vegetarian. I mean, he needed the food. You know, Native American chiefs that didn't have, like, they were having like a drought or something, no agriculture, really needing food to feed their tribe, would go out. There's a story of a specific chief, to say this more accurately. A specific chief I was told about, he would go out when they didn't have food, and he'd go and he'd play his flute, his Native American flute, to the buffalo. And he'd play his flute. And a buffalo would come up to him and offer itself to him. Isn't that beautiful? Think about these trees and how they offer themselves to us too. Like, do you cut down a tree for your home? Well, that's not a fruit. It didn't want to, you know what I mean? It didn't grow for you to do that, did it? I mean, you guess you could say it did, but then you could also say a cow did the same. You could also say that everything did the same, that we've done the same, that if something eats you, that you grew to be eaten, that it was an offering. It all depends on how you see, you know. If you see things as going against one another all the time, then you could see it as otherwise. You know, and you could be like, well, look at the crazy amount of suffering that they're living in. Well, you know, you can only live in suffering if that's your karma. You know, a lot of things surrender to suffering for the benefit of everything. And a lot of things are doing it to release themselves from karma and actually help themselves and benefit themselves. You could say that something's against itself, but that's not the truth. And, because that's impossible. Now, you'd say, oh, of course it's possible. Look at this thing against this thing over here. And I say, well, that's not actually what's actually occurring. That's a way in which you're perceiving what's occurring. That's a way you're identifying with what's occurring. And just because you perceive it to be that way doesn't mean you're perceiving it truly. I mean, I could tell you a lie right now, and just because I've said that I've said a lie, maybe I even believe that the lie is true, doesn't make the lie true. You know, I could tell you right now, hey, my hair is fully blonde at the root. And you'd be like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. I believe that fully. And you're like, well, I guess because you believe it's true, it must be true. Just because I believe it's true for me doesn't mean it's true for everybody, and doesn't mean it's the damn truth. You know, my hair is not blonde at the root, and that's just what the truth of it is. I mean, unless we change our language entirely. Oh, in his language, blonde means dark brown or whatever this color is. You know, and then I guess we could see that to be true, because I then speak a completely different language, which changes the meanings of my words and the way we distinguish them precisely with one another. This is why words are very important in the English language, because the way that we define them are the ways in which they're able to be related to others. And so going back to our overstanding, I don't know why anybody would overstand anything. It's like, okay, that's cool. But the word is understanding. It doesn't mean to be under anything. We're not understanding. I'm not standing on anything. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, what are you talking about? How do you understand something? Well, it's easy. I understand it. I understand it from point A to point B. I can't even explain that in another way. Like, what is another word for understand? How do I say that? I get it. I have received all the information and am able to articulate it in a way that's accurate. Let's see, understand. Yeah, I get every bit of information about it from point A to point B, and so I can explain it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, A, K, J, L, M, N, O, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z.